Good afternoon, Namaste, dear learners. I, Dr. Mahesh Singh, Professor Plant Pathology, Tirthankar Mahavir University, Muradabad, Uttar Pradesh. Welcome you all in NIOS studio. Dear learners, today we will discuss about the major diseases and insect pests and their management. We will learn about the details to teach the students about the etiology, disease cycle, identification of the insect pest, and what are the suitable management practices for major diseases and insect pest of the rice crop for better and assured yield. Dear learners, the learning outcome for today's sessions will the end of the lecture you will be able to understand about the diseases, their economic loss, their causal agent, symptoms, and what are the favorable conditions for the spread of the disease and their pathogens and their life cycles, and how to identify the insect pest, and what are the suitable management practices for the paddy crop. Dear learners, as you know, rice, that is Oryza sativa, it is a major cereal crop that belongs to the family Poaceae. It is the most important staple cereal crops which is consumed by more than 50% of the world population. As you know, the importance of the rice crop, but the cultivation of the rice is often challenged by the presence of various diseases as well as insect pests that can significantly impact on yield and quality also. The farmers lost their estimated average about the 37% of their paddy crop by the pest as well as disease every year. These biotic stresses pose the continuous threat to rice production, necessity through the understanding of their nature as well as impact of the management strategy. Rice diseases caused by, as you know, fungi, bacteria, viruses, nematodes, and other agents also for the different parts of the rice plants. This disease can lead to reduce the photosynthesis process, nutrient uptake, and even the plant death also. Insects are another major challenge in the rice cultivation, causing damage by feeding various plant parts. You can see here in photographs how the insect damage the stems as well as the leaf also. Insect pest can hinder the rice growth, reduce yield quality, and compromise the grain quality also. These are the some list of the important rice diseases are like brown spot of rice, as you know, rice blast, Tungro disease of rice, Khaira diseases, bacterial leaf blight, sheath blight, false smut, rice grassy stun, and bacterial stripe disease, grain rot, foot rot, sheath rot, as well as grain discoloration. Apart from these, some other diseases are also there, and these are the some insect pests which are the major caused in the paddy crop, like grasshopper, leafhopper, stem borer, cutworms, mealybug, gall midge, etc. You can see here in photographs, these are the very common in rice crop. You can see everywhere in the rice field. Now we will discuss about the brown leaf spot of rice. As you know, the distribution and economic importance of the brown leaf spot of rice. It is a fungal disease. As you know, it affects the leaves, sheath, as well as panicles, branches, and glooms also. It is also known as helminthosporiasis disease of rice, and it is a disease of widespread occurrence in almost all paddy growing countries of the world. Brown leaf spot of rice is one of the most serious diseases that can be affect the growing crops, growing rice crops. This disease is the principal cause of the famous Bengal famine, as you know about in 1943, which resulted about the death of the millions of the people, and so many people have been migrated from there. And the disease is, however, is widely distributed throughout the country, especially along the state like Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu, etc. Under highly favorable conditions, the infection may be severe and may be reach up to 90% of the yield loss. Now about the symptoms and causal agent. You know about the causal agent. It is a fungal pathogens. The name of fungal pathogen is Bipolaris oryzae. Earlier it is also known as Helminthosporium oryzae. The symptoms you can see here, the symptoms in the leaves as well as in the grain also. The fungus attack the crop from seedling to milking stage, means the fungal attack the crop at any stage of the growing crops from seedling to maturity stage. The symptoms appears as minute spot on the coleoptile leaf blade, leaf sheath and glooms, being the most prominent on the leaf blade and glooms also. The spots becomes cylindrical or oval, dark brown with the yellow hollow, or later being circular several spots. These small spots collapse together and to form the larger patches, and sometimes it's larger patches collapse together, and these patches being cover the larger area. That's why the leaves become dried and the plant ultimately plants become the dead. Now about the disease cycle, you know the infected seeds and stubbles are the most common source of the primary infection. Means the infected this season infected crops, the stubbles, the straw and the other parts of the parts which are the infected by this disease, they can harbor the pathogens and serves as the primary infection. These conidia present on the infected grains and mycelium in the and infected tissues are viable for the 2 to 3 years. So you can imagine the viability of the pathogens for a long time. That's why they can cause the primary infection. Airborne conidia infect the plants both in nursery and in the main field also. The fungus also survive in the collateral host like Lursia and Echinococcus. And the favorable conditions for this disease is about the 25 to 30 degree centigrade temperature is most suitable, and more than 80% relative humidity are highly favorable for the spread and perpetuation of this disease. Excessive use of nitrogenous fertilizers are also helpful for the disease development. And these are the disease cycles I have also discussed, like the first of all the pathogens spread through the diseases by the transforming by the infected seed grains, and the disease spores germinate. After that germinate and after germination the rice grown spores are formed in the leaf spots, and after that the infection start and the main plants get infected and dispersal and spread of the pathogens and cause the disease for the and survival of the pathogen, and the pathogens can spread in the next disease cycle. And now about the disease management. The cultural practices, as you know, the cultural practices is very important for handling and proper handling of the crop as well as the field for spacing between the plants, and drainage, good drainage should be there. Avoid the excesses and use of nitrogenous fertilizers that can helps to reduce the disease severity. And field sanitation is very important. You can remove the alternate and collateral host nearby the field, so that the pathogens can't be harbor the area nearby the field. So you have to clean the all nearby the grasses of the main field. Stubbles should be destroyed after the harvesting to avoid the soil-borne inoculum in the soil. So first of all, you have to clearly destroy, or you maybe burn the stubbles of the this year crops. After that, for next year, you can be the pathogens should be less in still. The use of slow release of nitrogenous fertilizer is advisable. And crop rotation, as you know, it is a very important practices for the avoiding the diseases by the practicing of the crop rotation with non-host crops can helps to reduce the overwintering of the source of the pathogens. Timely planting, you have to early plant can be helpful for the establish of the various canopy of before the disease pressure increases. Now about the since the disease is seed borne, so that's why you have to treat the seed by using chemical fungicide and like Thyram or Agrosan at the rate of 0.25 gram, and Captan at the rate of 4 gram per kilogram of seed. And you can spray the Mancozeb at the nursery conditions to avoid the disease severity. Hot water treatment for the seed is very helpful to kill the seed-borne pathogens at the 55 degrees centigrade for 10 minutes give the better result for the disease reduction. The spray of the crop in the main field with the edifenphos at the rate of 500 ml or Mancozeb at the rate of 2 kilogram per hectare when grade reaches 3, and if needed you can repeat it after 15 days intervals. Now about the blast disease of rice. The distribution and economic importance of blast disease of rice. The blast disease of rice was the first recorded in China in 1637. In Japan, it is believed that it occurs in in 1744. In Italy, also reported in 1828, and USA in 1876. In India, it was first reported in Tanjore district of Tamil Nadu in 1918. This pathogen causes yield loss ranging from 30 to 61%. So that's why you can imagine the losses, yield losses of the crop by this disease is much more. That's why you have to better understand of this disease and to manage this disease properly. In severe condition, 70 to 80% of the yield loss may be reported. So that's why this is the very important disease. And the causal organism of this disease is Pyricularia oryzae or Magna Parthy gracia. It is the sexual stage of this disease. The symptoms of this disease is very common, and you can observe are seen in the field. And the fungus attack the crop at all stages of the crop, like from seedling to seedling in nursery stage to heading in the main field. The typical symptoms appears on leaves, leaf sheath, rakish node, and as well as glooms also. And there are the 3 types of symptoms like leaf blast, node blast, and neck blast also. So first of all, leaf blast, the symptoms is initially small diamond shape, lesion with the gray centers and brown margin appears on the leaves. As the spots increases in size, that's why the small spots collapse together and to form the larger patches, and it's belonging to the leaves, and the brightening of the leaves, and the whole leaves become dried in conditions. So that's why at the initial stage, small leaves increases, small spots increases in size. At the later stage, these small spots increases in size and collapse together to form the larger area, and the leaves become dried completely. Now about the node blast. Node blast, as you know, the nodes are get affected by these pathogens. Like irregular blackening on the area that is the entire of the nodes. They can notice. You can notice in the nodes as well as the affected nodes may break up, and all the plant's parts above the infected nodes may be died. So that's why it is a very serious disease. If the nodes get affected, the whole panicles as well as upper part of the plants get died. Now about the neck blast. Neck blast fungus infect the neck region of the panicles, causing it to become particularly completely sterile. Means if the neck is get affected, the whole the ears, head get affected. This result in the rotten of the neck and the reduction in the grain formation. Early neck, if the early neck infection means grain filling does not occur, and the panicles remains erect like dead heart caused by the stem borer. The similar symptoms you can observe like stem borer. The small brown to black spots also may be observed on the glumes and heavily affected the panicles. Now about the disease cycle. The pathogens survive and overwintering the fungus between the cropping season on the infected rice residues, weed host, volunteer crops, and alternate host also. Means pathogens survive the so many ways. That's why it is cause very serious disease. Like volunteer crops are also there, alternative hosts are also there. Means weeds and some residues of the crop that can harbor the pathogen. Conidia are easily dispersed by means of winds, water, and other means. The secondary infection released by the conidia can carried by the wind as well as in rain to the neighboring field as well as the neighboring plants also. The disease cycle can be repeated multiple times within a single growing season. That's why it is a very causing very serious diseases. Now about the favorable conditions for the spread of this disease. The application of excessive dose of nitrogenous fertilizer is very dangerous in case of this disease. That's why you have to apply the recommended dose of nitrogenous fertilizer, as well as cloudy weather is also helpful. High relative humidity, that is about the more than 90%, is helpful to spread of the disease. Low night temperature about 15 to 20 degrees centigrade and less than 26 degrees centigrade is also helpful for the spread of this disease. More number of the rainy days, longer duration of dews, cloudy weather, slow wind movement, and availability of the collateral host is also favorable for the spread and dispersal of the disease. Now about the disease management. Dear learners, the managing of the disease is very important in case of this disease also, and managing in rice plots involved in the combination of the cultural practices as well as chemical strategies. So you have to apply the integrated approach for the management of this disease. Since integrated management is often most effective approach, so you have to use all various methods which are applicable for the management of this disease. Use of resistant variety. There are the so many reported resistant variety is Simmapuri, Sriranga, Falgunas, and MTU 7414 IR36, Sravani, Jaya, Vijaya, Ratna, etc. Are reported as the resistant variety. Now about the crop rotation, as you know, avoid the planting in rice in the same field continuously. You have to rotate the rice with the non-host crops. Can be helpful to reduce the buildup of the fungus in the soil. So you have to rotate the crop in every year if possible. And now about the sanitation, the field proper sanitation should be there to avoid the residuals and in cultural activity, and after the harvest and the plow and remove the crop residues to reduce the survival of the fungus pathogen. Monitoring and early detection of the pathogens, you have to monitor regularly and the field. So if you find any sign of disease spots in your field, so you have to measures or apply the early measures to reduce the and to reach the disease severity stage. So you have to timely plan for the disease reduction. You have to sow the early season to escape the peak disease pressure. Early planted rice can mature before disease becomes severe. So you have to sow the early or timely sowing of the crop. Fertilizers, especially the nitrogenous fertilizers, you have to use the recommended dose of fertilizers. Nutrient management can helpful to promote the plant health, making the less susceptible to disease like rice blast. Overheaded of the irrigation is also very much effective. So you have to apply the proper irrigation. Fungicides you can apply like Mancozeb 75%, vegetable powder and the Mancozeb and 50% can be effective. So dear learners, we will meet once again and after a small break. Thank you.
जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने। जीवन ये प्रकाशित करने राहों को आलोकित करने
धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो, धन साधन समय की सीमा से विद्यालय जो मुक्त हो।
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय के लोच से युक्त हो,
कभी पढ़े हम कहीं पढ़े वे विषय की लोच से युक्त हो।
मित्रों हम उठे और जागे,
मंजिल आने की ध्वनि सुने, हम अपना दीपक स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने।
मन ये प्रकाशित करने, राहों को आलोकित करने।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर।
शिक्षा परीक्षा का अवसर एक बार ही क्यों मिलता फिर। दुनिया में इसके केंद्र बात, कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने, हम अपना जीवन स्वयं बने, हम अपना रास्ता स्वयं चुने, कोई मन चाहा केंद्र चुने,
Dear learners, welcome back once again. Dear learners, till now we had studied about the brown leaf spot and blast diseases of rice, their distribution and economic loss, their causal agent, about the symptoms and the life cycles and suitable management practices of this disease. Now we will see the bacterial leaf blight disease. This is the bacterial disease of rice, and which is also very important disease of rice crop. That's why we have to learn details about this disease. Bacterial leaf blight, in short you can say BLB. It is another significant disease of rice which is caused by the bacterium Xanthomonas oryzae, that is Pathogen oryzae. It was first reported by a farmer's Fujikawa in area of Japan in 1884, and later on it was reported from all over the world, and it affects the rice plants during all growth stages, and it is a major concern to the rice farmers and breeders due to its potential cause and significant loss in the rice production. The yield loss reported depend upon the locality, season, weather condition, cultivars, as well as application of the amount of the nitrogenous fertilizers that tends to the yield losses about the more than 60%, and it impacts the food security also and livelihood challenges and for the growing regions. So about the pathogens, it is as you know the bacterial pathogens like Xanthomonas oryzae, that is Pathogen oryzae, and the symptoms is initial symptoms appears as the water soaked on lesions on the leaves. You can see in the photographs also the initial symptoms, and these lesions turns in yellow colored and at initially necrotic or dead type color, and the forming irregular translucent area with the yellow hollow. Lesions collapse at later stage and causing the leaves with weather and complete dying of the leaves. In severe cases, the disease can spread to the panicles, affecting the grains development also. And you can see here in photographs the clearly symptoms, mean the leaves, and the symptoms is clearly seeing on the leaves, the complete leaf getting dye, yellowish of the leaves, small spots are there, and after that the drying of the complete leaves. And about the disease cycle, survival of the pathogens, the bacterium can survive in infected plant debris and the seed also. After that, the inoculum production, bacteria are the release from the infected plant parts when the rain or irregular splashes and into the plants. Infection of the bacteria enters into the plant through the natural openings like stomata, wounds or hydrothodes, etc. And the colonization of the bacterial is it multiply and spread within the plant, causing the damage of the leaves, and the disease is spread through the bacteria are spread through rain, especially rain splashes, winds, and in irrigation water, especially if the sprinkler water using in the field, then they can bacteria can they spread through that also. And irrigation water also. Secondary spread is also spread by the new plants are initiating the new infections, and the panicle infection in the severe cases the bacterium can infect in the panicles as well as grain also. Now about the disease management, first of all we have to treat the seed by applying the disease to avoid the 50-degree C treatment with the hot water. You can apply the hot water at the rate of 50 degrees centigrade for the 25 minutes. It can be helpful to eliminate the bacterium from the infected seed. Field sanitation, you have to remove and destroy the infected plant debris to reduce the source of inoculum. And crop rotation is also helpful for the disease management. That's why you have to rotate the rice with the non-host crop to break the disease cycle. Avoid overhead irrigation also, minimizing the leaf wetness by using the method of like drip irrigation or furrow irrigation. So you have to avoid overhead irrigation also. And fertilization, use of fertilizers, balanced nitrogenous or balanced dose of all fertilizers should be recommended. Copper based spraying fungicide, which is basically bactericides. Copper based bactericide can be provide some protection against the bacterium infection, and applied preventively at the onset of the symptoms. And early detection, regular scouting or monitoring and early detection of the symptoms can be helpful to manage the disease effectively. Cultural practices, planting at appropriate spacing, means you have to avoid the dense planting especially, and avoid the excessive nitrogenous fertilizers can be reduce disease severity. Integrated management approach will be very helpful, like resistant varieties, field sanitation, cultural practices, and chemical practices also will be helpful to minimize the disease severity. Adjusting the sowing dates to avoid the warm and humid conditions during the flowering and grain maturity also. Spray any one of the following fungicide and bactericide will be helpful, like copper oxychloride at the rate of 0.25% and streptomycin sulfate 200 ppm, or you can apply the streptocycline, that is the combination of streptomycin sulfate plus tetracycline hydrochloride at the rate of 9:1 ratio plus copper sulfate at the rate of 1000 ppm is also effective. Now about the false smut disease of rice. False smut disease is also very important disease of rice, which is caused by the Astylogenide virus fungus. It has been reported in various rice growing regions around the world. It is the most preventive in area with warm and humid climate, which is favorable to fungal growth and disease development. Infected rice panicle is often have reduced the number of healthy grains due to formation of sorai, that is fungal spores, instead of normal kernels. This result in the reduction of overall yield as well as the contaminated seed and the loss of this results the loss of the farmers also. False smut infected grains may contain the mycotoxin also, that's why it is a very harmful fungi also. And you can see here the symptoms on the infected seed grains. And as you know, the causal agent of this pathogen is the causal agent of this disease is Osteogeneid virens, and the symptoms, the small balls appears on the first and grow gradually on the size of the about 1 centimeters on the seed grain, that is in kernels, and the individual rice grain transform into a mass of yellow fruiting bodies. You can see here clearly in the photographs. It is a very dangerous, you can say, the malformation of the rice grains, and it is seen in between the hulls as well as the enclose of the floral parts also. As the fungal growth intensified, the smut balls, you can say it is a blackish brownish colors and completely looks like, after that at initial stage it looks yellowish to green color, at later stage it turns into the blackish brownish colors and completely formation of the balls, means whole you can say whole grains can be damaged. And only few grains in panicles are usually infected, and rest are in normal conditions. And now about the disease cycle. The pathogens harbor in glumes as well as straw, and also in some gramineous weeds also. And the seeds have also been found to carry the pathogens in the pericarp and endosperm, and the climatic conditions having the temperature about the 25 to 30 degrees centigrade and more than 90% of the relative humidity will be helpful, and also the cloudy days with the intermittent rainfall is helpful to spread rapid development and spread of the disease. Continuous rain at the time of heading may lead to heavy losses of the crop. It has also been observed that the incidence of the blast disease increases with the increases of dose of the nitrogen. So you have to apply the recommended dose of nitrogen as per the recommendation after soil testing. Now about the sanitation, you can remove and destroy any infected plant materials to reduce the source of inoculum. This includes infected panicles, stubbles as well as weeds and straw also. Crop rotation is also helpful to implement the proper rotation practices to break the disease cycle. Resistant variety, planting the resistant variety or tolerant rice varieties is one of the most effective ways to manage the blast smut. Seed treatment, it is advisable to treat the rice seed with the help of fungicide like carbendazim at the rate of 2 gram per kilogram of seed before planting. It can be helped to prevent the initial infection of the fungus. At the time of harvesting, diseased plant should be removed and destroyed so that the sclerosia do not fall in the field. This will be reduce the primary inoculum for the next cropping season. And a proper planting time. Plant the rice at the recommended time to avoid the favorable conditions for disease development. Proper fertilization you have to use the proper dose of nitrogenous fertilizers as well as recommended dose of other fertilizers based on the soil testing. Avoid the overhead irrigation. False smut spread through water is blessing also, so you have to avoid the overhead irrigation. And fungicides, in severe cases you have to apply the fungicide. It can be used at the last option. It's like you can apply the spraying of copper oxychloride at the rate of 2.5 gram per liter of water, or propiconazole at the rate of 1 ml per liter of water at boot leaf or milking stage, with more useful to prevent the fungal pathogen. At tillering stage you can also apply the spraying of hexaconazole at the rate of 1 ml per liter of water, and or you can also apply the chlorothalonil at the rate of 2 gram per liter of water at the rate of at the 10 to 12 days intervals. Now about some important insect pests which are very common in the rice field. So first of all, rice grasshoppers. You all are aware about the rice grasshopper, or even though you have seen the rice grasshopper in the rice field as well as some other plants also. So rice grasshopper, it is a very important pest of the rice crop. So it causes heavy damage to the rice crop when they feeds on the plants. The extent of the damage depend on the factors such as grasshopper population density, rice growth stage, as well as environmental conditions. So you have to seen in the field. It is a very damaging insect pest observed in the rice field. About the identification of the rice grasshopper, the body is a shiny greenish to yellowish color with the 3 black lines you can see here in the photographs also, and in the early stage the young are shown in yellowish color and with the many reddish brown spots on their body. They become greenish as well as they grow in older stage. The adult and other young are mostly found near the grasses, water channels and ditches, as well as in the rice field also. So you have to see nearby the rice field, otherwise the channels also, and nearby the dense grasses also. It causes very damage in the rice crop starting from the nursery to complete maturity at the rate of maturity stage also. So damage of the crops by the basically the adults and young eat the leaves at the and the sides of the leaves first, means the leaves they can eat the leaves in the side also, and rice grasshoppers feed on the leaves, stem also, sheath also, as well as the rice plants, complete rice plants, and sometimes and the small grains also, and initial milking stage also, and the large period of the leaves as is consumed. That's why the photosynthesis rate can be checked. The irregular feeding on the seeding and leaf blade, you can see here in photographs the irregular cutting and feeding of the leaves by the grasshopper. During the month of August and September, they cause heavy damage and leaf shedding may occur also. Rice grasshoppers also feed the grains as well as resulting in the empty of the panicles, means when it feed the rice grain at milky stage, the complete formation of the grain has been checked. And now about the grasshopper management. You can manage the rice grasshopper by the following ways, like managing the grasshopper in a rice field involves a combination of the preventive, cultural, biological as well as the chemical control also. Means you have to apply the integrated approach for the managing of the rice pest. And regular monitoring, you have to monitor your field as on the basis of regularity. And grasshopper, if you find any symptoms of the grasshoppers or find the observing the grasshopper, you have to take management measures at an early stage. Avoid the sowing of alternate host plant near the rice crop. Means you have to avoid the alternate host nearby the main field. So remove and clean the field border also. Means you have to clean the or cut the grasses on the bunds also. And grassy area that serves the potential of the grasshopper habitats. So you have to destroy their habitats nearby the main field. You can dust the main crop in the crop at the rate of 5 to 10% of the methyl parathion at the rate of 2% and 25 to 30 kilogram per hectare. And now about the stem borer. It is also very common and important disease of important insect pest of the rice crop. And about the stem borer, stem borers are the major pest of the rice crop that can cause the significant damage and yield loss if not managed effectively. Dear learners, these insect borers and to the rice plants feeding on the internal tissue, basically it enters into the stems and cut in the stem, and they can feed the internal tissues of the stem, and after that the plants get lost. Means the lodging may happen, and the complete parts of the plant or that plant complete reduce the grain filling also. So that's why it is a very important to manage and identify the this type of stem borer in your field. The extent of the crop damage and loss caused by the stem borers depend on the various factors, including the pest density, rice growth stage, as well as the environmental conditions which helpful for the spread and development of this grasshopper, these borers, stem borers. And identification of the stem borers. This presence of the brown colored egg mass near the leaf tip, it in vegetative stage, larval stage, as well as the you can see here in photographs. The first one is larva and adult, as well as and egg also. Now about the nature of damage in the vegetative phase. The center should die off, turning the yellow in colors, and dead heart symptoms you can see. In the ear being stage, the ear head appears the completely chaffy as well as white in color, and white ear head you can see. The both come uneasily when pulled up, and you can say the easily pulled up of this infected tissue. Crop damage, this is the you can see easily the rice crop damage by the stem borers. And management cultural methods, field should be easily cleaned, and the removal of the proper disposed of the stubbles should also apply. Grow resistant variety like TKM6, IR20, etc. Clip the tip in the seeding and before the transplanting, and also collect and destroy the egg masses. Avoid the close plantation. Easily pull and destroy the affected tillers, and harvest the crop up around the upper levels. And you can use the trap methods for the trapping of the insect, and you can kill by this method also. and you can apply the chemical controls like quinol phos 25 EC at the rate of 1000 ml per hectare, or phosphomidone 40 SL at the rate of 600 ml per hectare, or profipenophos at 50 EC at the rate of 1000 ml per hectare. Thank you very much.